She was extremely surprised. The event was attended by approximately 145 people, I think, at some level. And what that means is there was more participation, more paid participation, as opposed to a little bit less with actual physical attendee. And those were a number of tickets that were sold for this event. She was very surprised. All four of her grandchildren were in attendance, her adult grandchildren that came anywhere from the North Carolina to Philadelphia area, as well as Silver Spring, Maryland, and Muskegon. And
Silver Spring, Maryland, no kidding.
So these are all her adult grandchildren, and accomplished in their own ways. And they all came, and it was a 100% surprise, as well as her immediate family. Everybody that is living was present. My mom is the middle child of 7. And the amazing thing is that of her 6 siblings, everyone that is, whether she's, well, let me back up. Of the 7, there are only 3 that are living, and it is the 2 middle ones and then the youngest sister. And so everybody of the siblings, everybody had representation at the event. So she had family that traveled from Atlanta, from Virginia, from Illinois, and I think, and I have to think, and as well as there were participants from Michigan as well. But all 7 siblings had, all 6 of her siblings had at least one of their children present or more. So that says a whole lot, especially since all of us are retired. A lot of us are retired and what have you, and some have grandchildren. So it was an amazing event. She also had her first cousin, who she was raised with, who came from Atlanta, and all of these were 100% a surprise. My mom has worked in the community, and I will start off. She was very active in church, and primarily church alone up until probably the 70s. And I do apologize for that landline ringing.
No, it's okay.
But in the 70s, she, after we graduated, actually early 70s for me, I went on to college, and then when my sister graduated in 1978, my mom really became more active in the community. And so, because before it was just church, she was a lot active in church, in which I'll talk a little bit about that, but also in with our school. And so she moved out into the community in the 70s, late 60s, 70s. Her and my father were both activists in the civil rights movement, NAACP members, and very active with Urban League. But other than that, she was not as active in the community. And then, like I said, in the 70s, she kind of stepped out. And so she's worked, as you'll see from her bio, there's a number of things that she worked with. Community Solidarity. She was one of the founders of that organization that's been for many, many years, and worked to have justice for all, justice and equality in the workplace, in the schools, in the community. And she was the community solidarity president for many, many years, and worked across actually the Muskegon community, but also in the surrounding areas. She was very active in the Urban League. As well, she has a position when she lived in Muskegon Heights. She was on the zoning and economic development maybe board. And then again, it's in the bio. I don't have the bio right in front of me because I couldn't locate it at obviously at a moment's glance, I had it and then misplaced it. So she was on that board for a number of years. She also has worked with the Progressive Democratic Women. She was she was one of the chairpersons for a number of years of the Muskegon Black Political Caucus, as well as various other community organizations that she was involved in. She is also part of Cooperating Churches. She's on the board of directors for that. So all around has worked the community. There's a breakfast. We celebrated the 24th annual Unity Prayer Breakfast, which is held every September. It was 24 years. We didn't have it the last 2 years because with COVID, but this year we came back with a little smaller footprint, which meant I think it was over 200 people that were at it. And it's smaller because it ranges anywhere from 300 to 400 people, and it's held at the today it's called the Delta by Marriott, but it's been there through all the over the last 24 years over all the names. With that being said, there were people from the community that attended that had attended the event on Sunday afternoon, well, Sunday from 4 to about 6:45-ish. That event was also, as far as people that were in attendance, from our church. And so she has worked in the church, and I apologize for movement.
No,
She worked in the church on a local level, meaning in our local church. She serves as the church administrator, and she works as the director of the women's department at the church and special projects. So there are a number of activities that she spearheads, and she has various individuals reporting in from the auxiliaries, that such as the hospitality, the Christian Women's Council, Sister to Sister, which is women that are 30 to 50s that literally get together and they have a lesson and they talk about living a life that's pleasing to God, and how to be good homemakers, good parents, good community workers, good family members, and just talk about giving tips and tools how to maneuver life. And then the CWC is the older version of that, where a lot of them are seniors that have been there, done all that I just talked about, and they are in the later season of their life, and how encouraging, motivating, having them become mentors and teachers to the younger women, as is scripturally spoken about the young and the old working together in their purposes, and how the young are to be taught by the older. And so that they, like I said, she has that group that reports into her, and there are numerous others, but those right there are the ones. And I will speak about Sister to Sister, as well as We 12, and We 12 is another group that is of women that the We 12 and the Sister to Sister were involved in spearheading this event, and it was a church event, church sponsored event, but the lead was taken by those two groups of women, and a couple, I call them the wives of some, the husbands of some of the couple wives in the groups, to do some of the heavy lifting. But anywhere from the decorations to the management of the sale of tickets, the doing the taste testing, because Rikes was actually the caterer that was chosen, and any of the plaque, all of the things that were done, a lot of it was spearheaded by these organizations. And then last but not least, the her church affiliation on not just with the local church, but what we call district. And district has districts can have anywhere from 7 to 20 churches, just depends on where they're located. Ours has had 7, averaging 7. But one of the things that was important is that our church was at one point in time, the Church of God in Christ for the state of Michigan. At one particular time, there were bigger, and I'm going to use the word buckets. So there were, the way it was divided, one particular division had over 180 some churches. And so across the state, which is huge. And that was, going up until the 70s. And so, and at the death of that leader, and there were others that were there were, I think, 3 others at that point in time, but at the death of Bishop J.S. Bailey, that split. And as it split, it became subsets of it, to say. So like Southwest 1, Southwest 2, Southwest 3, and Western. And what already existed was Great Lakes. What also existed was Northeastern and Northwestern. And so what that means is, North Central. And so what we actually find is that she served under the large one, which was one of the originals, which was Southwest Michigan. And then when Southwest Michigan split, she worked under Southwest 3 and then Western Michigan jurisdiction, which really most of the churches are the Western jurisdiction, were the churches that comprised on the Western side of the state, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and so she not only worked for these individual churches, she had a position on the district level as well.
Correct.
Okay.
And so she was over all the women at the district level. And so she organized, one of her many, many traits is organization. She organized the women, and she did various trainings, not only with protocol, but also how to be hospitable, how to present your local church, how to, when you're up speaking, what is the protocol and who should be called first, who should be seated where, all the way down to the place settings, and who should be at the various tables, and just how things, the order of things. So she has done that across the these jurisdictions, and that's what the celebration was. For over 37 years, closer to 38, she led in that capacity, which tells you that's a very long time. That's a very long time. She's had many state positions, but on the district level, she did this for, like I said, over 37 years. Over the bishops that she had was Bishop J.S. Bailey. She served under Bishop Roger Jones. It was Bishop Nathaniel Wells Jr., and now under Bishop, and I'm just drawing a blank, Burton.
Okay.
And so it's that again is part of the it is a part of the bio that I will send to you. And so with that being said, she's worked with the person there now working in the district report. So our hierarchy, the hierarchy of the Church of God in Christ, we have our national church, national, international church. Then we have the jurisdictional level, and then we have the district level, and then we have the local. So that's kind of how it worked, but she's worked jurisdictionally. At one point in time, it was state, until they started crossing over. Churches started, you could be in Northern Illinois and be a part of Michigan. So from a jurisdictional and from a district, and it's Bishop Melvin Burton. It just completely escaped my head just in that moment. But So she, has worked. She's done lots and lots of banquets where she has been responsible for, been the chairperson for corralling several churches, 30 to 70, 80 churches to get together to host this event, and just making sure that things, hostesses, the greeters, the program, all of that, all of the logistics, to make sure that all of that has transpired with elegance. The other thing that I talk about is her professional life. She was born, as I said, she's the middle child out of 7. And the one thing that is amazing to me concerning my mom is the fact that, first of all, family is foremost. It is family, God and family, in that order. But then she had a career every day of my early life. And I say that she retired from Muskegon County Health Department, and she also retired from Mercy Hospital. And as a laboratory technician earlier in her career, and then after the Muskegon County Health Department outsourced their laboratory, she became a maternal and parent, I believe, advocate, and she worked in that position until her retirement. So very, very busy in the community. From a looking at her career, she started after graduating from Muskegon Heights Public Schools. She is a proud Tiger, let me tell you. I think she graduated in 1954, I believe that's the year. And she attended what was, it's now known as Muskegon Community College. We know it was the junior college at Muskegon Junior College, and through that program with the medical technology program with Muskegon Junior College and Mercy Hospital, which was the old Mercy that was on 5th Street. They had a program for medical technicians and technologists, and she completed that program, and she was hired as in the laboratory there. She worked and was a part of the location on 5th Street, and they moved to the location on, which was, I believe, on Sherman. And so, and then after there, she, while waiting on a position for Muskegon County Health Department, she filled in for just a few months for, as they had someone out for surgery, and someone else out for a longer term illness. She went and worked at the Seaway Clinic, which was located on Peck Street, and she worked as a medical technologist there. And then for Dr. Garrison, again, filling in while that the health department was kind of, I think there was a reorg or something going on, and she then was hired at Muskegon County Health Department. And at that time, they were downtown in the county building. And so my mom was married to the late Donald E. Cole. And so they were married for 47 years until our father passed away. But the funny part about it is they worked together. They worked in the same building, but I can honestly say I don't think they ever rode to work together. I think that might have been too much togetherness. I don't know. And they worked on different floors in the county building, and then the health department moved out to I think it's at Oak Street. I can't remember.
Yeah, I believe so.
And they moved out there across from the old General Hospital. And then Dad, his office, he had Muskegon Oceana Cap. He was the executive director for them. And so they moved to another location on Southern. And so they literally polarized and went to other sides of the city. But so probably maybe they, that riding together, they just afforded them the opportunity. They just knew how to get to work. So they didn't need to ride together. So, but with that being said, they were married for, like I said, 47 years, and Mom continued working, and after I think she retired shortly after. I think she retired right before Dad passed. I can't remember the exact. I think she retired before he passed, but at any rate, she worked for, like I said, with the health department, and there were many, many people that she helped. And I run into people all the time that tell me that people that were even at the event recounting that one of the things that she did, and that was helping them. They were 19 years old, a single mom, pregnant, homeless, literally without just a high school education, and they wanted to go back to college, and but here they were pregnant and needing resources, and how she worked with them to get their rent paid for 10, 12 months, how she went with this young woman to every doctor's appointment, and the young woman recounted with tears in her eyes how grateful she was. And what's interesting is that same young woman is Lady Keisha McClanahan, who is a teacher at one of the early education programs, and she is actually taking up the reins for the position that Mom was actually vacating.
Oh,
So
that's
it's
awesome.
super cool.
Yeah,
Super,
that's
super
what I'm talking about, a full circle moment, right?
yeah. And
Love to
so
see.
that's, there's a song that the Clark singers, the Clark sisters sing, and they say, "It's my living in vain." And it says, "No, of course not." And that's definitely one of those moments where it was no, of course not, you know, because up the road is eternal gain. And she actually got to see it right here on earth. And Keisha has graduated from college and now is a teacher and, raising her children. And she doesn't forget the hand up. It wasn't a handout, but it was a handout with a hand up. And so, with tears in her eyes, it was a very, very sweet moment that was experienced as she was recounting to those that were the participants at this gala. So, just kind of a recap of. And the other thing is, as I don't know if I said it, but all three of the siblings, my mom and her two siblings, everybody, that they were all sharing this moment with her.
And obviously that says so. I mean, that says so much right there, right? But if I could ask you to do this, and I know it's a big ask, but if you could crystallize your mom's life and work into one sentence, her advocacy, her impact, what would you say?
A woman that doesn't accept no, that is determined, especially when she sees the opportunity for things that are within reach. She seeks for justice for all. She does it with elegance and grace, and with an expectation that there will be excellence in the execution of what is done.
Very well said. Very well said. And obviously it seems as though a lot of people not only recognize that, but were directly benefited from that ethic, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Is there anything else you would add? I mean, is there anything else we should know about your mom, about the event? What do you think?
We're grateful that my husband, who is also the pastor, kind of helps a little bit, but um, Pastor, he's the elder Dwayne E. Bennett, Duane, and his last name is Bennett, Bennett. He was very, very appreciative of when he was asked if this could be done for her. He was very agreeable, and he worked to make sure that we had the resources to make it happen. But also the fact that we're grateful that he recognized as she's there, she works with him every single day. Um, when he's, like I said, we live in the Texas Township area right outside of Kalamazoo, on the other side with Portage schools. And so he he worked to make sure with her working with him every single day, he made sure that this was a surprise. And she knew she was having the event, but she did not know any of the details. And he afforded us the opportunity to the committee I work with them, because I, being a pastor's wife, I work across all the groups. So, but he was very, very gracious, and he was very, very supportive in making this happen. So, the kudos to also the other pastors. The bishop was there, the highest lady position in the jurisdiction. She was there and presented an award to she was emeritized, and for her work. And so that says a lot about the life and the lady.